Girl in the Ashes. Chapter 14. We arrive at the border of Amishi on our 2 horses. It's been a long day of travel. I'm not as tired as I should be, mostly because I fear what might happen when I return home. I focus on the small animals coming up to check the weather. Some stay out. It calms me down a bit because that means it will be an early spring. Edward assures me that no one will suspect we went off together. Apparently, he told his father he was off hunting to clear his mind. My excuse is not as convincing, so I worry what Lady Harriet will say. However, I trust Neriel covered for me. Right as we pass the lake, Aaron meets up with us. He has a bow and arrow and a bag strapped to his horse's saddle. Inside the bag, I see animal skins and meat. Looks like Edward even has evidence to support his hunting trip. Perhaps, I shouldn't fret over our crazy plan after all. He'll make it happen. Your Highness, I'm grateful for your safe return. Have you gotten any closer to finding your mystery princess? Aaron asks, stopping his horse in front of ours. Edward bites his lip, chuckling slightly. Yes, it proved to be more enlightening than I imagined. Excellent. Does this mean we can return to the castle? I've had some rough nights, I'll have you know. Same here, but yes. We may return. Aaron beams and nods to me. Ella, thank you for keeping him safe. I'll get a head start. I say my goodbye to the dutiful servant before he gallops away. We follow slowly behind him, but soon I'll have to leave Edward's side. At the edge of the forest, Edward dismounts Snowman. I get off the cream mare as well, knowing I can't ride her home. Back to real life, I say bitterly. Not quite, Edward says, leaning forward. My instincts take over as I lean the rest of the way. The kiss is sweeter than any of the others, probably because there are no lies between us. It carries on until we both laugh softly. I'll see you later then, I say, stepping backward gradually. I'll be counting the days, princess. I gaze at him until it's no longer reasonable to backstep. Turning my back to him causes a heavy weight, yet also there's the promise of our next meeting. Whatever happens, I can make it until then. I'll go to that last ball. Once I make it home, I stare at the house with dread. I take a deep breath and open the door. In an instant, Lady Harriet grabs a hold of my arm. Her grasp is tight and she forces me down onto the couch in the sitting room. Tessa, playing the piano, abruptly stops with her last notes hanging in the air. Clara comes running downstairs when she hears her mother shout. Do you think I'm an idiot, Ella? You have never left this house without telling anyone, and Neriel's claims will not save you. I thought I raised you better than to scamper off with a man, and I don't care who that man is. Nothing happened. I protest, we just traveled to the Hall of Records and back. Lady Harriet sniffs, nothing happened? Nothing happened. You naive girl. You traveled with him alone, didn't you? That is a dangerous position for a young woman to put herself in. If you were caught, what do you think the king would do? I say nothing because the answer is obvious. The king would condemn me to death or deliver a public whipping. She presses her hand to her head and mutters, I can only blame myself. I thought you wouldn't stir up any more trouble. It's a good thing Neriel wasn't allowed to care for you, seeing as she's a horrible influence. I latch onto Lady Harriet's words. What do you mean by that? Why would Neriel take care of me unless? Lady Harriet fidgets and swallows. My heart plummets. She found it. She found the documentation of my godparent, and it must have been Neriel. I stand from the couch, no longer trembling from fear but anger. It makes sense now. She said she made an arrangement with Neriel, but what kind of arrangement? What did you do to the paperwork, stepmother? I ask, what deal did you make with Neriel? She purses her lips. Clara, Tessa, and I all look at her expectantly. I've backed her into a corner. I found the papers after you all went to bed. I was furious when I saw it was Neriel and not me. Of course, I realize he and your mother decided that together, but it still hurt to see he hadn't changed it. I always knew the prince liked you, Ella. Why did you think I made connections with your family in the first place? Your mother had a relationship with the royal household. There's no doubt in my mind your mother and the queen fantasized about you and the prince marrying one day after you were born. That's just what friends do, but I wanted my daughters to have a chance, so I took hold of every opportunity presented. I would have been happy if you married the prince, Ella, but Tessa and Clara are my biological children. And I was afraid you would not think of us as a family once your father died. I calm my breathing, though a part of me wants to scream and throw hands. Where's the paperwork, now? I burned it, Lady Harriet whispers, and then I blackmailed Neriel into helping me pay for you. She knew she was your godmother, but I know she purchases illegal potions to create her dresses. So I threatened to tell the authorities. Mother! Clara gasps, cupping her hands to her mouth. Tessa only crosses her arms. If that's true, you did the right thing. Neriel is a criminal. That's not the point. Ella could have lived normally, and I know she would never abandon us if the prince married her. Now none of that will happen because Ella is seen as less than a commoner. I'm touched by Clara's anger on my behalf. I've never heard her shout with so much fury before. She's typically the soft-spoken member of our family. Tessa rises to the challenge as they argue back and forth. Eventually, the conversation goes back to my trip with the prince. Clara, Ella is a detestable creature because of Neriel. She ran off with the prince for almost an entire week. And what was their purpose? To track down that no-good mysterious woman. Not only has Ella flirted with the prince herself, but now she's sabotaging my chances even further. He'll find that wretched princess and marry her instead of me. Quiet, Tessa! Lady Harriet finally interjects. We watch as she straightens the folds in her dress. She flicks tears away from her eyes and then stares directly at me. Ella, I made a huge mistake, but I am still your provider and your actions deserve punishment. You will not be allowed to visit Neriel or leave this house until your contract as a servant has ended. If Prince Edward ever comes, you will lock yourself away. I will not allow you to make a bigger fool of yourself. I know your friends, and you may think he won't try anything, but a man is still a man. Now, this house needs cleaning, and I expect dinner to be ready at the usual time. Tessa clicks her tongue. That's her punishment, mother? Any other indentured servant would receive lashings. My eyes are wide as I stare at Tessa. She's always been unpleasant, but I never imagined a day when she would seek to harm anyone physically. Is her love for Edward that intense? Could that even be called love? No, it's an obsession. An obsession put there by her parents. Lady Harriet glances at her daughter distastefully. That would only bloody the floor, Tessa. And a lady should refrain from violence. She avoids looking at me as she says, Ella, get going. I head out of the room, but before I leave I turn my neck slightly so Lady Harriet can hear my voice clearly. I'll never forgive you. The rest of the day, I avoid Lady Harriet and Tessa as much as possible, keeping busy with chores and whatever else has been neglected while I was gone. Clara tries to speak with me more than once, but Tessa drags her sister away. Around dinner time when I'm preparing their meal, Clara finally escapes. She walks in, clothed in a beautiful maroon dress. It is not suited to be in the kitchen. If she's not careful, a sauce splatter could ruin it, or her wide skirt could knock something over. And heavens knows Clara can't cook beyond buttering bread. Clara, you really shouldn't be in here. She remains by the open door with her hands knitted together in front of her. I know, but I just wanted to say what my mother did was terrible. I can't forgive her myself for treating you this way, nor can I forgive Tessa. But most of all, I wish I had done more in the past. I could have stood up for you sooner, Anne. Ella, are you letting Clara help you? Tessa shouts from down the hall. She pushes past Clara and looks around the kitchen. Dinner is far from ready, but I have meat pies cooking in the oven while I chop up vegetables for a salad. I set my knife down, bowing to Tessa. She just came in to check on my progress, I say, the first words I've said since the argument. Tessa's blue eyes narrow as she steps closer so we're face to face. I see. Well, perhaps you should work faster. At her last words, her hand flies and smacks my left cheek. Clara winces at the sound while I slowly turn my head back to its original position. I say nothing as I stare blankly into Tessa's eyes. It stings, and I have no doubt her long nails left ugly red marks. I hold everything back, keeping my screams inside. There's no reason to shout, just keep to yourself. I turn my other cheek to her, waiting. Tessa fumes and I wonder how long she has hated me. How long has she wanted to claw my eyes out? She raises her other hand and evens out the pain in my face. Clara moves when Tessa raises her hand again, but Tessa pushes her down. Clara stumbles to the floor, her dress tearing as her foot gets caught on the fabric. Tessa's blow hits me and keeps going like an uncaged wild animal. Past events cloud in my head, memories of what my life became after Mother's death. The nights I never went to Father to tell him how I felt. He always forgot me during the night. I was his princess, but they were his queens. Queens are more important. As a little girl, I told myself this. They are in more pain. They need Father's love more than you. You don't need to be tucked in at night. You don't need fine dresses. Do all the work to keep your family together. Give Tessa all you have and don't get mad when she berates you. Don't ever ask to join in because you're not a refined lady. And finally, don't ask if they love you. You don't need to hear the words, because you have to earn it. Why have I lied to myself for so long? Once she has exhausted her energy, she says through raspy breaths, I hate you, Ella. You are always in the way. And I hate you. Never have you expressed interest in the prince, yet here we are. I'm sick and tired of her. In the past, I would have thrown hands with her, but I'm too drained to lift a finger. She's not worth the effort, so I say, Tessa, every day you keep proving what a loathsome heathen you are. If you wanted Edward to love you, the problem isn't me, it's you. Tessa clenches the fabric of her dress while her lips quiver and her eyes water. The truth hurts. She looks at Clara and me, seeing the damage she's caused while knowing neither Clara nor I tried to attack her. She storms out of the kitchen, and I release the tension in my body. I help Clara to her feet. Thank you, Clara. And you shouldn't have to apologize for them, but you should keep your head down for now. They are your family. She hugs me tightly. You can't be the only risk-taker in this house. I'll do the same thing tomorrow, no argument. You're my sister, Ella. As we break away, we smile and are glad we have each other. Clara gently touches my cheek, and I grimace. She shakes her head and rushes outside briefly, collecting a small pile of snow in a kitchen towel. She then presses the cold towel against my face. This reminds me of the times we played doctor in our room. Lady Harriet caught us and forbade us from playing it again, seeing as women weren't allowed to enter the profession. You should go, Clara. I still have to make dinner, I say. I wouldn't worry about it. There's no way Mother will come out of her room, and Tessa is too mortified to return to the kitchen. Clara is right. I don't see Lady Harriet or Tessa until dinner. Even then, they request to eat their food in their rooms. Afterward, Clara and I sit on the kitchen floor and eat by the fireplace. Her dress is already ruined, so Clara makes no complaint as her skirt cleans the dirt off the ground. We don't say much, but I know I'll remember this moment with her. She leaves my side when it's time to go to bed. Before I close my eyes for the night, I count the living people who still care about me. As horrible as it is, I can count all of them on one hand, yet I'm thankful. They are Clara, Neriel, Jeb, and most of all, Edward. Those are the people I trust with everything I have left. By some miracle, I douse off to a deep slumber. My dreams center around these people. I think of each one and what their happy life would be. Neriel and Jeb get married, and Neriel is the most beautiful bride. She even has wings, which she flies around in search of a good honeymoon spot. As for Clara, she becomes an artist and the first female doctor in Amishi. I don't even know if she wants to be a doctor, but she is happy in the dream. Finally, there's Edward. He becomes the greatest king Amishi has ever seen. Spring is here, along with the spring ball. I don't know how I'll get there when I'm confined to the house. Every night, Tessa and Lady Harriet ensure the kitchen doors are locked so I can't wander off. Everything is harder these days. Before I was happy doing the work and knowing I'd get to see Neriel in the evening. That has been taken away from me along with books and my cross-stitching projects. There are some things they can never take though, my imagination, dreams, and thoughts. At the moment, I use what I have to picture myself dancing along the ballroom floor back at the castle. I sway my body with the broom sweeping the grime into a pile. I close my eyes to picture the blazing room. I hum the tunes from previous dances. I stop abruptly when I hear footsteps approaching. Lady Harriet appears in her wedding gown. She must be wearing it for the ball. I must say that it's a good choice, and with its red and orange accents, it passes as a regular gown. No one would think twice about it. We are heading out to the ball, and Tessa has a job for you to keep you busy. This is the most Lady Harriet has said to me in a while, and she can barely look me in the eye. What would that be? I ask, sweeping up the pile on the floor. Sorting through seeds. You'll follow me down to the kitchen. I throw the pile of grime away and follow her to the kitchen. I walk in while she gives me the same guilty look which has been plastered on her face for months. Then she locks the door behind me. One by one, I sort the seeds. There are simply too many to try to get an estimate on the amount. When I hear my family has left the house, I run to the kitchen door leading outside. I'm not surprised that it's locked. I think about breaking the window or the doorknob. I have to get to Neriel's somehow. I want to fight back, and I trust Edward. Then I stare at the empty fireplace, arching an eyebrow. I could climb up the chimney. It's a crazy idea, but I duck inside and climb. My butt rests on one side while my feet are on the other. Slowly, I ascend the chimney, thankful the kitchen doesn't have a floor above it. Coughing, I emerge into the darkness of the night. I pull myself on the roof. Now is the time to use my brain to find a safe way down. There's a tree nearby, and the more I look at it, the more I think I can make the jump. Then I get a better idea. One of the branches comes a little closer to the roof, and I can reach it from where I stand. I can swing down and hope the branch will hold my weight. Breathing in, I grab the thin branch and jump off before my fears return. With one quick swoop, like swinging on a swing, I ride to the ground. The branch breaks halfway, and I yelp, landing on my back. I sit there for a second, leveling my breathing and heart rate. Nothing feels out of place, so I stand and stare at the roof above me. I thank the Creator nothing broke. Pushing my hair back with the wind rustling my clothes, I break into a run. This is nothing compared to what I've faced so far. I keep running even when I see Neriel's house. I'm glad to see her lights illuminate the windows. I don't know what I would do if she wasn't home. Flinging the door open, I come inside. Neriel gets a real fright, jumping so high her head nearly hits the ceiling. Dresses fall to the floor, and she acts like she isn't using magic. Her look of fright disappears when she sees it's just me. Ella, the crazy girl covered from head to toe in ash. Neriel hugs me tightly. There are so many emotions on her face. Sadness, anger, worry, and most of all, now that I'm here, happiness. You scared me, but I'm glad to see you. I won't ask any questions about how you got here, 'cause I have a feeling I already know, she says, looking me up and down. Also, if you're here for the reason I think you are, we'd better hurry. I laugh as she brings me behind the curtains where the hidden dresses are. She takes the beautiful spring dress off along with its accessories. That would include pink flower hair clips and the glass slippers. While she holds all these items, which I don't dare touch due to the ashes, she flicks her free hand. At that moment I feel a slight tingle. Specks of light zoom around me and Neriel no longer holds any of the items in her hands. It's as if I was frozen in time while her magic cleaned me all up. When the specks of light completely vanish, I don't have to look down to know that the lively dress replaced my rags. I touch the petal-like fabric with a smile spread across my face. My hair is curled with the flower hair clips strategically placed. Last of all, the glass slippers are on my feet. Neriel sighs, then perks up. Oh, what are we doing? We've got to get you to the ball. I'll go get my horse in the back. Since when did you get a horse? She blushes. Jeb, he gifted one to me. She shakes her head, frantically locating a potion bottle. She dips her fingers in and sprinkles the liquid on my face. But we don't have time for chatting. I'll get the horse. A few moments later she drags me to the horse, then helps me onto it. She smiles as if knowing that this might be the last time we do this. Where her thoughts go from there, I don't know. She then gives the horse a good hard smack. The horse dashes forward straight to the castle. Once the castle comes into view, I calm the horse. We pass through the gates, and the horse slows as we reach the steps. I slide off and bring the steed to a nice young man who takes it to the stables. I thank him kindly and then briskly race up the stairs where I enter the palace. I get to the guards who wait at the door, but before they can open them, a commanding voice echoes down the hall. This, I realize, is the king. You there, are you the girl everyone calls the mysterious noblewoman? He asks, drawing closer. I curtsy, yes, your majesty. Prince Edward told me to expect an audience with you. I am honored. Follow me then, he says roughly. I obey and follow him to a large room entirely white with white tables, chairs, a piano, and statues. He looks at me expectantly. I move over to one of the chairs and sit down. He nods and sits as well. My son is choosing a bride tonight, he begins while I hold my tongue. He has informed me that the bride is you, the mysterious woman, but I don't trust you. No one knows who you are or what you are. Your manners have been acceptable so far, and if you intended to harm my son you would have done it by now. Tell me, what do you have to offer my son? Love, your majesty. That's about all I can give him. And what kind of person are you? I swallow, rubbing my sweaty hands on my dress. I can't get a read on him. I'm a bit stubborn, but I'm getting better at listening to others and considering their opinions. So I guess, what I'm trying to say is the answer to the question is constantly changing. However, I have always tried to be a good person. And your talents? Aside from dancing, of course. You've already proven your elegance at the winter ball. I can play piano, sing, sew, and paint. His expression turns dark like he's caught me in a trap. Waving a hand to the piano, he says, "Enlighten me." I stand, a little worried he'll call me out on standing higher than he is. He doesn't, so I gracefully walk over and sit down at the piano. I slide my fingers over the keys, which are all white, yes all. I breathe in and start to play one of Amishi's traditional songs and sing it as well. The song is complex, but somehow I pull it off. It was one of the first songs I learned because mother said I might as well start with the most difficult pieces. When I finish, the king doesn't clap. With great swiftness, he begins to smile and laugh. He stands proudly taking my hand and kissing it. "You, my dear, have earned my respect. Your voice and humility remind me of my wife. Noblewoman, commoner, I could care less so long as my son has a woman who loves him. And once tonight is through, you'll live in a better world." I stand from the bench and curtsy, not knowing what he means by a better world. Perhaps he's referring to the riches of royalty. Regardless, I'm laughing inside because he doesn't realize I'm the girl whom he banned from social events. The king sees me out, and I walk to the doors to the ballroom. There are no guards at the door, which is strange because they were there before. I shake the feeling off and step inside, opening the doors. This time, my eyes don't wander around the room or even worry about the staring eyes, they go right to Edward. He sits with his mother while women wait for him to dance. I can't help but smile at him, happy to see him in better circumstances. I watch Edward briskly walk through the crowd, which notably has fewer men than women. Did the rest of the men give up for tonight? Not that I can blame them, they've been waiting for Edward to get married as much as the young women have. Edward slows when we meet each other at the end of the steps. He's beaming just as much as me. My cheeks are already hurting, but I can't stop from smiling. "I was afraid you wouldn't show," he says, offering his arm. I loop my arm around his and say, "I had some complications." I look around the room. "Can we go somewhere more private?" He nods. "To the gardens then." Everyone stares as we stroll to the doors leading outside. When we are halfway, my eyes catch a hold of Tessa. Her face holds sheer hatred. What would happen if she found out who I am? She already hates my guts as Ella. I drag my eyes away as we make it to the door. Finally, out in the fresh spring air, I can breathe normally. The trees and bushes out in the garden have alluring pink blossoms. It smells sweet and looks far more appealing than it did in autumn when I first came out with Edward. We pass by the bench where we once sat and head further in. "It's beautiful," I say, looking at the flowers while wishing it was daytime. Edward gestures to my dress. "Not as beautiful as you. The pink and green go well together." Then he whispers, "You used that potion again, right?" "Yes, why do you ask?" "It's just. I was afraid that I wouldn't recognize you, but you walked in and I saw you as clear as day." I hadn't even considered that, but when Jeb and Nariel came with me, I don't remember their faces changing when I looked at them. I tap my chin. I wonder if the potion doesn't work on people if they know it's being used. "What did you see before you knew? Like, was my face different or something?" He laughs. "No, nothing like that. As I reflect on it now, I only see you. Back then, it was like my mind couldn't connect the dots. Maybe comparing it to a dream would be best because every time you disappeared on me, your face faded." I can see how this potion could be dangerous. Yeah, a servant could sneak into a ball, parade around as a princess, and steal the crown right under our noses. The noblewomen would be furious. I frown before I hit his arm. "Hey, I was being serious, and I would never want your stupid crown, Ed. Believe me, if I could help it, I would have fallen for an Avani traveler with more muscle on his arms." Edward glances at his arms, hidden away in his light blue sleeves. He adjusts his jacket as if it will make his arms bigger. It's not that Edward is weak by any means, but he's got nothing on men who do heavy labor every day like Jeb. "I see. Is that important to you?" I press my hand to my lips. This silly boy is taking my comment far too seriously, and he was the one who teased me first. "You know, you're surprisingly gullible, and for some reason, I find that cute." He leans his head to look at the stars in frustration. "Ella, you're supposed to say I'm handsome or charming. Not cute." "Oh, I am terribly sorry, charming prince. I understand if you no longer wish to accompany such an uncultured companion," I say, ready to tease him more when he pulls me in by my waist. "I think I'll take a kiss, actually." I blush but make no further comments. I have no desire to ruin the romantic atmosphere with another joke, so I go in for it. The more time we spend together, the more natural touching becomes. I can see why traveling with a man is dangerous and understand why Lady Harriet was as angry as she was. The fact that we love each other just means affection is more intense. As our lips part, the clock strikes 12. The potion will wear off soon, and anyone will recognize me. I smile then whisper in his ear, I'm ready to leap, Ed. Make sure you catch me. I kiss him again, slipping off one shoe. This will be my clue for him, though he doesn't need it. After that, I bolt, quickly taking the other slipper off so I don't trip. I run down the row of flowers until I reach the archway that leads to the stables. Right as I jump up on Neriel's horse, Edward reaches the arch. My last image of the prince is him holding the glass slipper and staring after me. I can't help but laugh as I make my way back to Neriel's. I shout Neriel's name when I near her house. She comes running out, clearly able to tell from my tone that I have good news. I jump off the horse, ready to deliver it. I'm going to marry Ed. She grabs my shoulders, shocked. What? He asked you to marry him? I smile. Well, not yet. But he will. I bring the glass slipper forward and it shines in the moonlight. He'll marry the owner of this slipper. Then you better keep that. Neriel exclaims before hugging me. We spin around in a happy dance, bouncing up and down. Things will be okay. Edward promised they would be. There might be backlash from the king at first, but he's made a deal with Ed. Neriel, I have to get going. I still have seeds to sort before they get back home. In fact, I have to figure out how to get back in the kitchen. Neriel smiles suspiciously. That, my dear, is already taken care of, but you should return the dress while you're at it. I had almost forgotten. In rushed words, I try to explain more of the situation as I change clothing inside Neriel's house, but there isn't enough time. She sends me running home, telling me I'll find the back door cracked open. As I near the house, I hear a carriage rumbling down the road. I quickly make my way to the back door and sure enough, the locked door is propped open with a rock. When I get into the kitchen, the seeds are sorted and I thank Neriel. When I hear the front door open, I quickly lay next to the fireplace with my grubby blanket as my pillow. I close my eyes and pretend I'm sleeping. The kitchen door swings open after a click of the lock. I groan in complaint as Tessa holds a brightly lit lantern. I know I wasn't asleep, but she couldn't wait until morning? She tosses her blonde locks and loudly states, "Great news, Cinderella. I still have a chance at being queen, even with that rat parading with Prince Edward." Tessa glances at the seed piles, disbelief crossing her face. She doesn't comment on it and instead says, "Well, anyway, it seems he has found a slipper from the girl and says whoever can fit it will be his bride. He says he won't go back on his word and spoke to the king about it too. Even he agreed to the idea." What a whim to go on. The shoe could fit many girls in Amishi, I say. Tessa smiles, precisely, and because he values our household he's coming here tomorrow. Get good sleep, you'll be cleaning every inch of the house before his arrival. She giggles triumphantly while slamming the door shut. I shake my head. Even if Edward didn't know I was the mysterious woman, the slipper would not fit Tessa. Furthermore, Tessa has been in the same room as the mysterious woman and no one would be stupid enough to believe the slipper belonged to Tessa. I hum quietly as I reach into my apron pocket and pull out the slipper. Plus, with this, there's no way anyone could disprove my claims. Carefully, I hide the slipper in the fireplace, ashes sprinkling on top of the glass.